But it's more important to pray prayers. No matter what you know about prayer, we count for nothing except you actually begin to pray. So tonight we will engage prayer. It's not enough just to commit to God. If you commit to God and you don't sustain the disposition of prayer, after 3 days you will discover that the euphoria of the atmosphere will depart from your soul, but there will be no stamina. This is why people come for meetings, they cry, they fall on the floor, they do all kinds of things, but after 2 weeks they go back. Because they were not taught that everything God does with a man rests on altars. Only altars sustain the stamina to bear the things that God gives to a man. And you will look at it in scriptures. So one of the reasons we pray is because we want to preserve the heritage of God in our lives. If we don't pray, no matter what it is that God gives to us, it will float away by the winds. The winds and the circumstances of this world will come and it will carry them away like chaff. I told you how most of us know that we are prophets, we are apostles, we are evangelists, we are commissioners, we are governors. The older you go, the more it will become to you like a story. The only way you can preserve it is by doing the business of altars. Hope you know when you were in primary school, in primary 1, there were things you were screaming that you will be. Now that you have grown, circumstances have taught you that those things don't come on a platter. The only way you keep dreams and heritages alive is by engaging the business of altars. This is what the fathers of old knew. Every generation that was able to trap the heritage of God and to express it until it was committed to the next generation are a people of prayer. After God called Abraham and promised him everything for all generation, told him he was going to give him everything. Genesis chapter 12 from verse 1 to 3. The Bible said the moment Abraham entered the promised land, in verse 7, he said he built an altar to the Lord that appeared to him. The reason you receive encounters, you receive impartation, and you lose them is because you don't plant them on altars. Impartations and encounters will count for nothing unless they find their place on the altar that you will erect. If you don't have an altar, the impartations and the encounters you see will be wasted. I tell you, there will be divine resources wasted because a man does not understand responsibility. That's why Jesus said, don't cast precious things to swine. They will stamp on them and turn back at you. There's no point releasing virtue upon a man that cannot run it on the altars that he builds. Every time altars become absent in the life of a man, then spiritual and divine investment are wasted. So one of the reasons we pray is not just to ask God for bread and wine. Prayer is the infrastructure that the heritage of God we receive is established upon. You want to have establishment in this kingdom, then prayer must become your lifestyle. The second reason we pray is because the purpose of God on earth cannot be preserved except by prayer. It is replete in scriptures. You know, tonight is a night of prayer and impartation. This is why I'm just running through before we begin to pray, so that you will know that your prophetic call that you talk about will never manifest unless you begin to pray. The heritage of God in your life is preserved by prayers. I told you how I came to Apostle Arume and told him I'm a prophet. Because I see visions. I say I'm a seer. That's the word I use. I'm a seer. And then when he held my hand in the spirit, he said, you are light. You are light. You have not started. He said, go. When you begin, when God begins, I will tell you. Meanwhile, we were walking with suit and preaching everywhere like this. You know how the devil was making a mess of us. You will go for a program, you will come back. After 3 weeks, somebody will be sick for 3 weeks. And then you will pray in tongues every night. The person will still die. Because you didn't have stature in the spirit. I went for impartation service. People were falling on the floor, crying everywhere. And when I finished, 1 hour later, they called me by 3 p.m. in the afternoon. They told me my brother who is in the hospital have died. I came, the people say, oh boy, this guy carry power. People were crying and falling down. But the one that was in crisis, I had no power to salvage what the devil had prosecuted. Because we don't understand that even the authority of God upon our life cannot be wielded except prayer goes into the foundation of our everyday living. When prayer became my lifestyle, when God began to teach me the powers of priesthood, I now understood how many years I wasted. Because the same personality that was stealing people from the family, he came again for my father. And this time around, I didn't need to do vigils. I told him to go home. And then I went back into the chamber where my altar was erected. And when I lifted my voice to Zion, a being descended into my room, clothed with a song. I knew judgment had come. That's when I understood that the reason men are powerful on earth is because they understand the intelligence of fraternity. When you see a man talk, he's talking by the agency of a spirit. When you see a man make declaration and it comes to pass, there are spirits that are the command of his words. He has known what it takes. Hope you know that Abraham's fraternity was all about his family. Until the Bible said he began the intelligence of altars. That was when Abraham began to have family in heaven. So at that point, kings came to take Lot. He didn't pray. The Bible said he took 318 trained servants from his house. He went after 5 kings and destroyed all of them. He saved Lot, came back with all the spoils. And the king of Sodom said, take it. He said, no. I'm sufficient in myself. I know altars. By altars, I can enter into heaven. Anything I want happens. This is why these men, when they want to bless their children, they don't give them goats and elephants and cattle. They say, El Shaddai bless you. Go. Inflation is no longer a factor. Because what they have secured has an eternal capacity. Because you say you are blessed, no matter what happens around you, it will turn out to be blessings. So they labor to stand in the spirit. Elijah will come out from the wilderness and stand in a palace and say, before God whom I stand. That is a man of altars. Nothing on earth moves them anymore. They have understood the intelligence of entering into their true reality. The man came again for my father. This time around, I was only to make decrees. And when I judged, 3 days later, my dad became strong. 3 days later, the man went down. And his right feet began to decay. Foot began to decay. 3 months later, he confessed and died. The amazing part of it, and the most troubling part of it was that the man altered his voice. And he said he killed my brother. That means if I knew the intelligence of prayer, I would have saved the life of my brother. So the reason my brother died is not because the devil is powerful. It's because I don't understand how to wield the scepter of authority that God gave me. The devil is not strong. You are weak. The destiny of a young man was wasted because the one that is the priest of the family was slumbering every night. And I vowed that everything God gives me, I will preserve it to the fullest. That was the kind of life men like Abraham lived. Abraham littered Bethel with altars. Everywhere you go in Bethel, there were altars. Until God himself will testify that I know Abraham, that he will command his children in the path that they should go. Even when Abraham left this world, Jacob was a swindler. He was the custodian of the Abrahamic blessing. The only thing that will make Jacob remain the way he is was not to walk through the borders where Abraham lived. The moment he entered the borders of Bethel, the first place he rested his head was an altar, and heaven opened. So he understood how to preserve heritages. Many 100 years later, when God came to Egypt, he came to Egypt not because the people were crying, because of the covenant that he had with Abraham. How do men become so ranking in the spirit? Because they know the ways of the altar. Men of prayer are the people that can secure and preserve the heritage of God that is upon their lives.